The Broken Warrior. Commander Marcus Chen stood in the medical bay of the starship Defiance, watching the monitors that tracked the vital signs of their newest crew member. The woman on the bio bed had been unconscious for 3 days since they pulled her from the wreckage of the research station on Kepler 442b. Her injuries were healing well, thanks to their advanced medical systems, but the real damage went deeper than flesh and bone. The automated systems had run every scan possible. Human female, approximately 25 years old, enhanced with military-grade cybernetics that put even their best soldiers to shame. Her neural implants were top-tier technology, the kind that cost more than most people made in a lifetime. But someone had tried to rip them out. Tried and failed, leaving behind a mess of scar tissue and damaged connections that told a story of incredible cruelty. Dr. Sarah Kim entered the medical bay carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a tablet full of test results. She was the best military surgeon in the fleet, and Marcus had seen her save soldiers who should have been dead 3 times over. But even she looked troubled as she approached the bed. "Any changes?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer from watching the monitors. "Physical healing is progressing normally," Sarah replied, her voice professional but strained. "The burns are fading, broken bones are mending, and her internal injuries are stable. But, Commander, what they did to her neural system, it's a miracle she's even alive." Marcus nodded grimly. The research station had been attacked by the hegemony, an alien alliance that had been pushing into human space for the past 5 years. The official reports called it a territorial dispute, but Marcus knew better. The hegemony didn't just want human worlds. They wanted to understand what made humans so dangerous in combat, so adaptable in crisis, so impossibly stubborn in the face of overwhelming odds. "Have we identified her yet?" he asked. Sarah pulled up a file on her tablet. "Lieutenant Elena Vasquez, formerly of the 7th Special Operations Division. She was reported missing in action 6 months ago during the raid on the Hegemony Research Facility at Proxima Station. Intelligence thought she was dead." Marcus felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The raid on Proxima Station had been a disaster. They'd sent in a team of 12 elite soldiers to recover stolen human technology and prisoners. Only 3 made it out alive, and they'd reported that the facility was destroyed with all hands. If Elena had been captured instead of killed, she'd been in hegemony hands for half a year. "What kind of experiments were they running on Kepler 442b?" Marcus asked. "From what we could piece together from the wreckage, they were studying human pain responses and psychological breaking points," Sarah said quietly. "They had detailed files on torture techniques, neural manipulation, and other things. The facility was set up specifically to break human prisoners and study how they responded to extreme stress." The monitors started beeping frantically as Elena's heart rate spiked. Her breathing became rapid and shallow, and her enhanced muscles tensed like steel cables. She was waking up, and her body was going into full combat mode before her mind had even caught up. "Step back," Sarah warned, moving to the control panel. "Her cybernetics are military grade. She could tear through these restraints like paper if she panics." Elena's eyes snapped open, and Marcus immediately understood why she kept her helmet on. The left side of her face was a map of surgical scars where someone had tried to access her neural implants. Her left eye was gone completely, replaced by a crude cybernetic replacement that glowed an angry red in the dim lighting. But it was her remaining human eye that told the real story. It held a depth of pain and fury that made Marcus, a veteran of 20 years of combat, take an involuntary step backward. She tried to sit up, and the medical restraints held for exactly 2 seconds before snapping like string. Elena rolled off the bed and landed in a perfect combat crouch, her enhanced reflexes making her movements faster than the human eye could follow. The medical gown fell away, revealing a body that was more machine than flesh. Her arms and legs had been replaced with military cybernetics, and her torso was crisscrossed with surgical scars and the silver lines of subdermal armor. "Where am I?" she demanded, her voice carrying the mechanical undertone of a damaged vocal processor. "What ship is this?" "You're safe," Marcus said, keeping his hands visible and his voice calm. "This is the UES Defiance. I'm Commander Marcus Chen, and this is Dr. Kim. We found you on Kepler 442b 3 days ago." Elena's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused on him, scanning and analyzing. Marcus could see the data feed scrolling across the surface of her optical implant as it accessed military databases and confirmed his identity. The process took less than 3 seconds, but he could see her entire posture change as the information registered. "Commander Chen of the Third Fleet," she said, and some of the tension left her shoulders. "I know your reputation. You led the evacuation of New Geneva when the hegemony broke through the outer defenses." "That's right," Marcus confirmed. "You're Lieutenant Elena Vasquez, 7th Special Operations. You've been missing for 6 months." Elena's human eye closed, and she was silent for a long moment. When she opened it again, the pain was gone, replaced by the cold focus of a professional soldier. "I need a full tactical briefing," she said. "Current position, fleet status, and intelligence on hegemony movements in this sector." Dr. Kim stepped forward. "Lieutenant, you've been through significant trauma. You need rest, and—" "I need to know if there are other prisoners," Elena interrupted, her voice sharp as a blade. "The facility on Kepler 442b wasn't the only one. They have research stations throughout the Outer Rim, and they're holding human soldiers for experimentation. Every moment we waste here, people are dying." Marcus studied her carefully. Despite the obvious signs of torture and surgical mutilation, Elena stood like a soldier. Her spine was straight, her movements precise, and her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to command. But there was something else there, something that made his veteran instincts whisper warnings. "How did you escape?" he asked. Elena's mechanical hand flexed, servos whirring softly. "I didn't escape. I was rescued." "By who?" "By someone who believed that humans deserved better than to be laboratory animals," she said. "Someone who understood that the hegemony's research wasn't just about torture, it was about finding a way to break the human spirit entirely." She walked to the viewport and stared out at the stars. "They think they understand us, Commander. They think that pain and fear are universal constants, that enough suffering can break any species. But they're wrong." Marcus joined her at the viewport. "What did you learn while you were there?" "I learned that the hegemony is afraid," Elena said. "Terrified, actually. In 5 years of war, they've conquered dozens of species, absorbed their technology, and added their territories to their empire. But humans are different. We don't break the way other species do. We don't submit when the odds are hopeless. We get angry instead." She turned to face him, and Marcus saw something in her human eye that made him understand why the hegemony was afraid. It wasn't just anger or hatred. It was the cold, calculating fury of someone who had seen the absolute worst that intelligent beings could do to each other and had decided that it would never happen again. "They've been studying us for years, trying to understand what makes us so dangerous," Elena continued. "They capture our soldiers, torture them, experiment on them, all in the hopes of finding some weakness they can exploit. But every test just proves the same thing over and over again." "Which is?" "That humans don't break," she said simply. "We bend, we adapt. We endure things that would destroy other species, but we don't break. And when you push us far enough, when you hurt us badly enough, we become something that even we didn't know we were capable of being." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that the hegemony has made a fundamental mistake," Elena replied. "They think they're studying us to find our weakness. But what they've actually been doing is creating the perfect weapon against themselves. Every human they've tortured, Every prisoner they've experimented on, every soldier they've tried to break has become something more dangerous than they were before. Dr. Kim had been listening from across the room, and now she stepped forward. Elena, you've been through incredible trauma. What you're describing sounds like... Like what? Elena asked, turning to face the doctor. Like post-traumatic stress? Like psychological damage? Doctor, I spent 6 months in their laboratories. I had my limbs cut off and replaced with crude cybernetics. They removed my eye and tried to extract my memories directly from my brain. They subjected me to pain that has no name in any human language. She paused, and when she continued, her voice was perfectly calm. And you know what I learned? That none of it matters. Pain is temporary. Trauma heals. But fury lasts forever. Marcus understood now why she wore the helmet, why she didn't want anyone to see her face. It wasn't shame or vanity. It was mercy. The scars on her face were nothing compared to what showed in her eyes. The hegemony had tried to break her, and instead they had forged her into something harder than any metal, sharper than any blade. There are 17 other research facilities, Elena said, turning back to the viewport. Hundreds of prisoners. The hegemony thinks they're conducting scientific research, but what they're really doing is creating an army of humans with nothing left to lose and every reason to fight. She placed her mechanical hand against the transparent steel, and Marcus could see the stress fractures forming under the pressure. They wanted to know what makes humans dangerous, Elena said quietly. They're about to find out. The ship's communication system chimed, and the voice of the communications officer filled the medical bay. Commander Chen to the bridge. We're receiving a transmission from Fleet Command. Marcus looked at Elena, then at Dr. Kim. Lieutenant, I want you to rest and recover. When you're ready, we'll discuss your intelligence on those research facilities. With respect, Commander, Elena said, I don't need rest. I need targets. As Marcus left the medical bay, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything had just changed. The war with the hegemony had been a defensive action, humanity barely holding the line against a technologically superior enemy. But if Elena was right, if there really were hundreds of enhanced human soldiers being held in research facilities throughout hegemony space, then the nature of the conflict was about to shift dramatically. The hegemony had been trying to learn what made humans dangerous. They were about to discover that the most dangerous human was one who had nothing left to lose and absolutely nothing left to fear. Behind him, Elena stood alone at the viewport, watching the stars and planning the kind of war that would make the hegemony regret ever hearing the word human. The broken warrior had come home, and she was ready to teach the galaxy exactly what that meant. The hunt begins. The briefing room aboard the Defiance had seen its share of war councils, but nothing quite like this. Elena stood at the main display, her helmet finally removed at Marcus's insistence. The medical staff had worked for hours to repair her damaged cybernetics, and now the crude hegemony modifications had been replaced with proper military-grade hardware. Her new optical implant no longer glowed red, but instead displayed a soft blue interface that complemented, rather than replaced, her remaining human eye. The scars remained, of course. They always would. But now they looked like what they were, battle honors earned in the worst kind of war. "Show me the facility layouts," Marcus said, settling into his command chair. Around the table sat his senior staff, Dr. Kim, Chief Engineer Rodriguez, Tactical Officer Lieutenant Hayes, and Intelligence Specialist Captain Morrison. All of them had seen combat, but none had seen anything like the detailed schematics that Elena was displaying. "The hegemony has been busy," Elena began, her voice steady and professional. 17 confirmed research facilities, each one designed for a specific type of experimentation. The facility where I was held, designation Theta-7, specialized in cybernetic integration and neural mapping. The holographic display showed a complex structure built into an asteroid. Multiple levels descended deep into the rock, with laboratories, holding cells, and surgical suites clearly marked. Marcus noted the defensive installations and the single docking port that made assault nearly impossible. "How many prisoners at each facility?" Captain Morrison asked, his intelligence training evident in the sharp focus of his questions. "Varies by facility type," Elena replied. Theta 7 held approximately 40 subjects at any given time. The larger facilities, the ones focused on psychological conditioning and group dynamics, can hold up to 200. Dr. Kim leaned forward. "Elena, I have to ask, how did you get this information? The level of detail here suggests extensive access to their computer systems." Elena was quiet for a moment, her human eye focusing on something beyond the walls of the briefing room. "They made a mistake," she said finally. "They assumed that because they could modify my cybernetics, they could control them. But human military hardware doesn't work like theirs. Our systems are designed to resist hostile takeover even when physically compromised." She touched the side of her head where new neural interfaces had been installed. "Every moment I was connected to their systems, I was recording, mapping their networks, copying their files, learning their protocols. They thought they were downloading my memories, but I was downloading theirs." Chief Engineer Rodriguez whistled low. "You turned their own data extraction process against them. That's brilliant." "It was survival," Elena corrected. "But the real breakthrough came when they tried to break my conditioning. They used a neural disruptor designed to fragment human psychological defenses. It was supposed to make me compliant, willing to cooperate." Marcus felt that familiar chill again. "What happened?" "It worked exactly as designed," Elena said. "It broke down every psychological barrier I had, every limitation on access to my enhanced capabilities. But instead of making me compliant, it made me fully operational for the first time since my augmentation." The implications hit the room like a physical force. Enhanced soldiers underwent extensive psychological conditioning to prevent them from accessing their full capabilities except under specific circumstances. The safeguards existed for good reason. A fully operational enhanced human was capable of things that bordered on superhuman. "How fully operational are we talking?" Lieutenant Hayes asked, his tactical mind already calculating possibilities. Elena turned to look at him, and Hayes actually flinched. "I can process data at approximately 300 times normal human speed. My reaction time is measured in microseconds. I can lift approximately 2 tons, move faster than unenhanced humans can track, and my targeting systems are accurate to within millimeters at ranges up to 2 kilometers. She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried a weight that made everyone in the room understand that they were no longer talking to just another soldier. "But that's not the important part," Elena said. "The important part is that the conditioning that was supposed to control me is gone. Completely. I don't follow orders because I'm programmed to. I don't feel loyalty because it was installed in me. I choose to fight because I've seen what happens when humans don't fight back." Marcus stood and walked to the display. "These other facilities, are there more soldiers like you?" "No," Elena said. "Most of the subjects in other facilities are baseline humans, scientists, colonists, merchant crews. The hegemony learned early in the war that enhanced soldiers were too dangerous to keep in large numbers, but they kept a few of us for specialized research." She manipulated the display, highlighting 3 specific facilities. Here, and here. These facilities each hold between 2 and 5 enhanced soldiers. All of them have been subjected to the same conditioning-breaking procedures that I experienced. Captain Morrison was taking notes on his tablet. "So potentially 14 enhanced humans with no psychological limitations and 6 months of torture-fueled motivation." 15, Elena corrected. "There's something else. Someone helped me escape from Theta 7. Another prisoner, but not human. A member of a species I'd never seen before. Tall, crystalline features, able to interface directly with hegemony computer systems." Dr. Kim looked puzzled. That doesn't match any known hegemony species. Because they're not hegemony, Elena said. They're prisoners, just like we were. The hegemony hasn't just been capturing humans. They've been taking specimens from dozens of species, studying their technologies and biological capabilities. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The war they thought they were fighting, humanity against the hegemony, was actually much larger. The hegemony was conducting systematic research on multiple species, trying to understand and exploit the unique capabilities of each one. My contact called themselves Zeth, Elena continued. Their species has natural abilities that complement our technology perfectly. While I was recording data from hegemony systems, Zeth was actually rewriting their security protocols. Together, we didn't just escape, we left behind a present. Marcus felt his tactical instincts sharpening. What kind of present? Elena smiled, and for the first time since her rescue, it wasn't an expression of pain or fury. It was the smile of a soldier who had found the perfect target. A virus, she said, buried deep in the hegemony communication networks. Every time they access data about their research facilities, it spreads a little further. And in 72 hours, when it finishes propagating through their entire system, it's going to do something wonderful. Which is, it's going to unlock every cell door in every research facility simultaneously, Elena said. And it's going to broadcast the location of each facility to every prisoner's enhanced systems. Lieutenant Hayes laughed out loud. You're going to turn their entire research network into a coordinated breakout. Not just a breakout, Elena corrected. A revolt. Hundreds of prisoners from dozens of species, all with intimate knowledge of hegemony facilities and technology, all with very personal reasons to cause as much damage as possible. Chief Engineer Rodriguez was studying the facility schematics. Commander, if these enhanced humans are anything like Elena, and they coordinate with prisoners from other species, it would be a disaster for the hegemony, Marcus finished. But how do we know they'll succeed? How do we know this isn't just sending them to their deaths? Elena's expression grew serious again. Because I've been in their cells, Commander. I've seen what 6 months of hegemony hospitality does to people, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that every single prisoner in those facilities would rather die fighting than spend another day as a laboratory animal. She manipulated the display again, showing fleet positions and patrol routes that she'd extracted from hegemony systems. But they don't have to die. The virus doesn't just open doors, it also disables facility defenses and broadcasts distress signals on human emergency frequencies. If we position rescue ships correctly, we can extract the prisoners and capture the facilities. Marcus studied the tactical situation. It was audacious to the point of insanity, but the potential rewards were enormous. 17 research facilities full of alien technology, hundreds of prisoners with detailed intelligence on hegemony operations, and most importantly, a massive psychological blow to an enemy that had built their strategy around the belief that they could capture and study other species with impunity. What do you need from us? He asked. Fast ships and soldiers who aren't afraid of a fight, Elena said. The breakout will happen in 68 hours. We need to be in position to provide support and extraction. Captain Morrison looked up from his notes. Elena, this plan requires an enormous amount of trust. How do we know this Zeth isn't still loyal to the hegemony? How do we know this isn't all an elaborate trap? Elena turned to look at him, and Morrison saw something in her remaining human eye that answered his question before she spoke. Because Zeth showed me what the hegemony did to their home world, she said quietly. They didn't just capture specimens for research. They sterilized the entire planet and harvested the population for experimentation. Zeth is the only survivor of their species. The briefing room fell completely silent. Marcus felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders like a physical burden. This wasn't just about rescuing prisoners anymore. It was about stopping a genocidal empire that viewed every other species as nothing more than research material. "How long until we can reach the nearest facility?" he asked Chief Engineer Rodriguez. "If we push the engines hard, 18 hours to the closest target," Rodriguez replied. "But Commander, we're talking about attacking heavily defended installations deep in enemy territory. The Defiance is powerful, but she's just one ship." Elena stepped forward. "Then we don't attack them. We let the prisoners do that for us. We just need to be there to pick up the pieces." Marcus made his decision. "Chief, set course for the nearest facility. Maximum burn. Lieutenant Hayes, I want tactical analysis of all 17 targets. We're going to need to choose our priorities carefully." As his staff filed out to begin preparations, Marcus found himself alone with Elena. She was staring at the display showing the research facilities. Her enhanced eye-processing data streams that scrolled too fast for normal humans to read. "Elena," he said carefully, "what you're planning. It's going to change everything. Once the hegemony realizes what we're capable of, this war is going to escalate beyond anything we've seen before." She turned to look at him, and Marcus saw something in her expression that made him understand why the hegemony was afraid. It wasn't just determination or anger. It was the absolute certainty of someone who had seen the worst possible outcome and decided that anything was better than allowing it to continue. "Good," she said simply. "Let them see what happens when they mistake human mercy for human weakness." The Defiance changed course, her engines burning hard toward a distant star system where hundreds of prisoners waited in the darkness, counting down the hours until their cages opened and the real war began. Behind them, Elena stood alone in the briefing room, watching the tactical displays and planning moves in a game that the hegemony didn't even know they were playing. In 66 hours, the galaxy would learn what happened when you tried to break the human spirit. It learned to break you back. The Reckoning. The Defiance hung in space, 3 light minutes from research facility Gamma 12, her stealth systems engaged and her crew holding their collective breath. In the command center, Marcus watched the countdown timer tick toward 0 while Elena stood beside him, her enhanced systems monitoring 17 different communication channels simultaneously. 60 seconds. "Commander," Lieutenant Hayes reported from the tactical station, "we're detecting massive energy buildups across all hegemony facilities. Their security systems are going active." "They know something's wrong," Captain Morrison added from intelligence. "Increased patrol activity, defensive systems coming online, but they're too late to stop it now." 30 seconds. Elena's cybernetic eye flared brighter as data streams accelerated. "The virus has reached critical propagation. Zeth's infiltration protocols are in position. All facility security grids are compromised." Marcus felt his heartbeat synchronize with the countdown. Around the galaxy, hundreds of prisoners were about to discover that their cages had become traps for their captors instead. 10 seconds. "All hands, battle stations," Marcus ordered. "Prepare for immediate action." 0. For a moment, nothing happened. The universe seemed to pause, holding its breath for what was about to unfold. Then Elena's systems lit up with incoming data, and her expression shifted from tense anticipation to fierce satisfaction. "Facility lockdown protocols reversed," she announced. "Cell doors opening, defensive systems offline, emergency broadcasts transmitting on all frequencies." The main display came alive with tactical information as the Defiance's sensors detected the chaos beginning across the galaxy. At Facility Gamma 12, explosions bloomed like flowers as freed prisoners turned the station's own weapons against its former masters. "My God," Dr. Kim whispered from her position at the medical station. "Look at the power readings from that facility." Marcus understood what she meant. The explosions weren't random destruction. They were precise, surgical strikes that disabled specific systems while leaving others intact. The prisoners weren't just fighting back, they were capturing the facilities. "Commander," Elena said, "I'm receiving direct communications from the enhanced soldiers. They're coordinating the uprising." She activated the ship's communication system, and suddenly the bridge was filled with voices speaking in calm, professional tones that carried undertones of mechanical enhancement. "Falcon 7 reporting, Gamma 12 secured, casualties minimal, beginning prisoner extraction and intelligence gathering. Eagle 3 here, Delta 9 is ours. Heavy resistance from hegemony forces, but facility defenses are neutralized, requesting immediate pickup for wounded personnel. Wolf 2 checking in, Alpha 15 secured, but we've got a problem. They were conducting live experimentation when the breakout began. Medical support required urgently." Marcus felt a surge of pride and horror. The enhanced soldiers were performing exactly as trained, but the scope of what they were accomplishing was staggering. 17 heavily defended research facilities scattered across thousands of light years, all being captured simultaneously by prisoners who had been written off as lost. "Chief Rodriguez," Marcus ordered, "bring us in. Full speed to Gamma 12. As the Defiance accelerated toward the captured facility, Elena continued monitoring communications from across the galaxy. The enhanced soldiers weren't just reporting military objectives, they were sharing intelligence, coordinating rescue efforts, and building a comprehensive picture of hegemony research activities. "Commander," Elena said, "you need to hear this." She opened a channel to one of the other enhanced soldiers. The voice that came through was female, carrying the same mechanical undertones as Elena's, but with an edge of barely controlled fury. "This is Sergeant Lisa Park, formerly of the 12th Heavy Assault Division. I'm transmitting from Research Facility Delta 9, and what we found here? Command needs to see this immediately." Marcus keyed his communicator. "This is Commander Chen aboard UES Defiance. Go ahead, Sergeant." "Sir, they weren't just torturing prisoners here. They were breeding them. They've been conducting genetic experiments, trying to create hybrid species with enhanced capabilities. We've found nurseries, Commander. Nurseries full of children who are part human, part alien." The bridge fell silent. Even Elena's data streams paused as the implications sank in. The hegemony hadn't just been studying other species, they'd been trying to create new ones. Dr. Kim was the first to speak. "How many children?" "Hundreds," Park replied. "Maybe thousands, and that's just at this one facility. The research logs indicate similar programs at every major installation." Marcus felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. "Sergeant, what's the status of these children?" "They're alive, sir. Scared, malnourished, but alive. The prisoners here have been caring for them as best they could. But, Commander, some of these children have capabilities that, well, they're beyond anything we've seen before." Elena's enhanced systems were already processing the tactical implications. "Commander, if the hegemony has been conducting breeding programs across multiple facilities, we're looking at potentially thousands of enhanced individuals with unknown capabilities." "That's not the worst part," Park continued. "The research logs indicate that this wasn't just experimentation. They were building an army. These children were being trained from birth to serve hegemony interests." Marcus understood immediately. The hegemony hadn't been trying to break other species. They'd been trying to create loyal soldiers with the best attributes of every race they'd encountered. Human adaptability and determination, combined with alien technologies and biological capabilities, all programmed from birth to serve their empire. "Estimated time to arrival at Gamma 12? Marcus asked. 14 minutes, Chief Rodriguez replied. As they approached the captured facility, Marcus could see the evidence of the fierce but brief battle. Hegemony patrol ships hung dead in space, their hulls split open by weapons that had torn through their armor like paper. The facility itself showed signs of internal explosions. but the structure remained intact. "Defiance, this is Gamma 12 Control," came a voice over the communication system. It was human, but with the same enhanced undertones that marked all the augmented soldiers. "Docking Bay 7 is clear for arrival. Be advised we have wounded personnel and approximately 60 freed prisoners requiring immediate medical attention." Dr. Kim was already organizing her medical teams. "I'll need every available medic and all our portable equipment. If the conditions in those facilities were as bad as Elena described—" "They were worse," Elena said quietly. "Much worse. The Defiance docked with the captured facility, and immediately the ship's corridors filled with activity as medical teams rushed to treat the freed prisoners. Marcus and Elena made their way to the facility's command center, where they found one of the enhanced soldiers coordinating rescue operations across the galaxy. Corporal Jake Thompson had been reported dead 9 months earlier during a failed rescue mission. Now he stood before a bank of alien computers, his enhanced systems interfacing directly with hegemony technology as he managed the logistics of 17 simultaneous facility captures. "Commander Chen," Thompson said without turning around, his attention split between multiple data streams. "Good to see you, sir. We've got the situation under control, but there are some things you need to know." Marcus studied the displays showing facility statuses across the galaxy. "Report. All 17 facilities have been captured with minimal casualties among the prisoners. Hegemony forces were caught completely off guard, and most surrendered when they realized their own weapons were being used against them." Thompson manipulated the displays, showing captured enemy personnel. "But here's the interesting part. Most of the hegemony researchers weren't soldiers. They were scientists, and many of them are asking for asylum." Elena stepped forward. "That's impossible. The hegemony doesn't allow dissent." "Apparently they do when the dissenters are being forced to conduct genocide," Thompson replied. "We've got researchers from a dozen different species, all claiming they were coerced into participating in the research programs. Some of them have been prisoners almost as long as we have." Marcus felt the tactical situation shifting again. "Are you saying the hegemony was enslaving their own scientists?" "Not exactly," Thompson said, "but close. From what we're learning, the hegemony isn't the unified empire we thought it was. It's more like a criminal organization that's taken over multiple governments. Most of their personnel are either conscripted or blackmailed into service." Elena was processing this information through her enhanced systems. "If that's true, then this uprising just became something much bigger than a prisoner revolt." "Exactly," Thompson confirmed. "Word is spreading through hegemony space about the facility captures. We're receiving communications from resistance groups on dozens of worlds, all asking for support." Marcus realized they had stumbled into something that could change the entire nature of the war. "What kind of support are they asking for?" "Intelligence, mostly, and proof that the research programs existed. Apparently, most hegemony citizens don't know about the experiments. Their government has been telling them that prisoners are treated according to galactic law." Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Galactic law doesn't include breeding programs and torture chambers." "No, it doesn't," Thompson agreed. "And when this information gets out, it's going to cause problems for the hegemony leadership." Dr. Kim's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Commander, you need to get down to Medical Bay 3 immediately. We've found something in the children's genetic profiles that you need to see." Marcus and Elena made their way through corridors that buzzed with activity as freed prisoners helped ship personnel catalog the enormous amount of intelligence data captured from the facilities. The medical bay was filled with children of various species, all showing signs of genetic modification that were visible even to Marcus's untrained eye. Dr. Kim met them at the entrance, her expression grim. "Commander, these children aren't just hybrids. They're weapons. Their genetic modifications are specifically designed to make them perfect soldiers." She led them to where a young girl, perhaps 8 years old, sat on a medical bed. She looked human except for her eyes, which held flecks of silver that seemed to move in the light. "This is Sarah," Dr. Kim said gently. "She can process visual information at speeds that rival our best computers. And watch this." Dr. Kim dropped a small medical instrument. Sarah's hand moved faster than Marcus could track, catching the device before it hit the ground. "Enhanced reflexes, improved cognitive processing, and physical capabilities that exceed baseline humans," Dr. Kim explained. "But that's not the worst part." "What is?" "They've been conditioned to respond to specific neural commands. The hegemony was planning to use broadcast signals to control them remotely." Elena knelt down beside Sarah, her enhanced systems scanning the girl's neural patterns. "The conditioning is similar to what they tried to use on us, but more sophisticated. They were building an army of child soldiers who could be activated with a single transmission." Marcus felt sick. "How many of these children are there?" "Based on the data we've recovered, potentially thousands spread across dozens of worlds," Dr. Kim said. "All of them designed to be perfect soldiers, all of them conditioned to follow orders without question." Elena stood up, her expression hardening. "Then we free them all." "Elena, we can't possibly—" "Yes, we can," she interrupted. "Thompson, how many hegemony worlds have you been in contact with?" 43 confirmed, with more establishing contact every hour." Thompson's voice came through the facility's communication system. Elena turned to Marcus. "Commander, what we've discovered here changes everything. The hegemony isn't just an empire. It's a slavery operation that spans half the galaxy. And now we have proof." Marcus understood. The captured facilities contained evidence of crimes against every major species in the known galaxy. Genetic experimentation, forced breeding programs, torture disguised as research, and the planned creation of armies of child soldiers. "What are you proposing?" "Full disclosure," Elena said. "We broadcast everything we've found to every world in hegemony space, every research file, every experimental log, every piece of evidence that shows what their government has been doing in secret. That would cause chaos throughout their territory." "Good," Elena replied. "Chaos is what happens when people discover their government has been committing genocide in their name. And chaos gives us the opportunity to do what we should have been doing from the beginning." "Which is?" Elena walked to the viewport where she could see the disabled hegemony patrol ships floating in space. "We stop fighting a war and start liberating an empire." Marcus realized that everything had changed. They weren't just rescuing prisoners anymore. They were looking at the complete collapse of the largest political entity in the galaxy, and in the middle of it all were thousands of enhanced humans who had spent months learning exactly how their enemies thought and operated. The hegemony had tried to break the human spirit. Instead, they had created the perfect weapons for their own destruction. And now those weapons were free, angry, and had nothing left to lose. The real war was just beginning.